and welcome to another episode of the Adrienne Ross Show, the basketball edition. Well, I think we're used to drama in the WNBA. Those of us who've been watching all season, there's never been a lack of drama of some sort. And who would have thought that the drama would amp up after the season officially ended? But it has, with over half of the coaches out of jobs, and that means over half of teams without coaches. Well, it got really interesting just yesterday when the Indiana Fever announced that Christie Sides would be let go. I did a video about that, and I also went live, and we had quite the conversation in the live stream. If you've not seen that, I'll put the link in the description, and I encourage you to go back and just take in the conversation we had. We talked about Christie Sides. We talked about why she had to go. We also talked about possible coaches for the team. That brings me to today. Connecticut Sun has made the announcement that some people have been expecting, and that is that Coach Stephanie White will leave, or actually has parted ways, to use the expression we've heard for 2 days in a row now, parted ways with the Connecticut Sun. And of course, that fuels the speculation, and maybe it's even more than speculation at this point, that Stephanie White will be joining the Indiana Fever. I don't know for sure. Obviously, we had heard previously that there were 3 teams looking at her. One was her own team, which, she was still under contract. So obviously they were able to figure out a way. As I said yesterday and said before, contracts are made to be broken. So they had said the Connecticut Sun, her own team, they said the Indiana Fever, and they said the Chicago Sky. Obviously her roots are in Indiana. She was born in Illinois. Her roots are in Indiana, as she played at Purdue, as she played for the Indiana Fever herself, wearing number 22, by the way. And of course, as she has been an associate coach under Lynn Dunn, won a championship in that role, and then also won, or I shouldn't say won, but took the Fever to the finals as the head coach of the Fever. Did well with Connecticut while she was there. So here we are now. I said in the live last night that I do believe, I get the feeling that it will be Stephanie White. We talked about some of the other names being bandied about. I gave my feelings on those names. But I did say that I understand that there are people who have a problem with the idea of Stephanie White coming to Indiana to coach. And again, we don't know. We just know they let her go. And there are some people who have a problem with that. And I talked about that, but just in case you didn't catch the live, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the statement that the Connecticut Sun released. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about the possibility of a Stephanie White coaching the Indiana Fever and some of the concerns about that. So let's take a look at this statement. Okay, the statement says, Connecticut Sun announced head coaching change. And this, of course, is today, October 28th. Today, the Connecticut Sun announced that the organization has parted ways with head coach Stephanie White. During White's time with the Sun, she coached Connecticut to a 55-25 regular season and a 7-7 postseason record, ultimately leading the team to 2 semifinals appearances. In 2023, White was selected as 2023 WNBA All-Star Game coach and ended the season with the 2023 WNBA and AP Coach of the Year accolades. We want to thank Stephanie for her time in Connecticut and her commitment to our organization over the past 2 years, said Jen Rosati, Connecticut Sun president. We wish her the best in her future endeavors. Okay, it goes on to say, established in 2023, Connecticut Sun is professional women's basketball league, Okay, so that's the part about Stephanie White. Would I be talking about Stephanie White if we hadn't also been talking about her possibly being the coach of the Indiana Fever? I would not. I don't think. I can't imagine I would be. Just a couple weeks ago or so, I had Martin from Live Wire Sports on my show, and we got into the possibility of Stephanie White. He spoke quite well of that possibility. Many people in the comment section were very appreciative of that banter, if you will, that he and I had about it. I realized that this is huge news. It's like the WNBA is totally being turned upside down, or one might say right side up, I guess. Lots and lots of shakeups and changes. The league absolutely needs it. I hope, I should say, it doesn't stop with just the coaching, because as I often say, it's the DNA of the league that needs some help. So the refereeing, the commissioner, the culture, the whole thing. But I'm telling you right now, if you just go to a search engine and put in Stephanie White's name, this is what you're going to see. I mean, you put her name in and there's Stephanie White, American former basketball player, gives all the info, etc. And then it's all the top stories. The Journal-Gazette, Stephanie White out as Connecticut Sun coach. Stephanie White out as Connecticut Sun coach. Stephanie White out as coach after 2 seasons. Stephanie White's son part ways amid rumors she's front runner to become, I'm sure we could say, the coach of, I don't know what they say. I don't know if let me just press on that and see what they say. Fever coach. I was wondering if they were going to say Fever and Chicago, but they did say Fever coach. Let's go back. So yeah, the whole thing, breaking, Connecticut Sun have parted ways. So everybody is talking about it. And I know that Fever fans are talking about it. When I first started hearing people say Stephanie White could be the coach of the Indiana Fever a few weeks ago or so, I didn't know how I felt about it. Just as I shared it in the live last night, I'm going to share a little bit again. Didn't know how I felt about that at all. My thought was what a lot of people are saying to me, and that is, look at what she allowed to happen to Caitlin Clark. Obviously, Dejanay Carrington comes to mind. Alyssa Thomas comes to mind. The bully ball that this team plays comes to mind. The fact that they got up there after they defeated the Fever, and instead of just enjoying their win and just congratulating the Fever on a great season, they wanted to make it seem like Caitlin Clark's fans, Caitlin Clark, responsible for all the problems of the world. We're all racist, etc. No class. Stephanie White, however, did not participate in that. I also pointed out in the live that she drew my attention early in the season, because when everybody was all wild about, oh, Caitlin Clark, she's not performing like we expected. Oh, what's going to happen with Caitlin Clark? She can't adjust to the physicality, all this stuff. And after just 2 games of the season, it was Stephanie White who spoke up for Caitlin Clark.
I'm, looking at all these things that people are talking about with Caitlin Clark. It's like, guys, chill out. Like, she's going to be fine. Like, it's 2 games in. Are you kidding me? She's a student of the game. She got better every year. You're not going to just absorb all of the new information that's coming at you in 2 games, in 2 weeks. It takes time. And she will. I have no doubt about it. She's a student of the game. She continues to get better. And these are also points that coaches then address. Hey, let's continue to work on this. But it's really hard to work on some of those things in season. So this might be an off-season thing, right? Let's continue to play to our strengths. Let's find different ways to get the ball to our players. And then when we get time in the off-season, then we'll work on that next step or that next level.
So I've always remembered that. And as some people pointed out in the live, she's always been complimentary of Caitlin, etc. But what about the fact that she couldn't control her players? What about the fact? Again, I had this conversation with Martin on Livewire Sports, and I've had this conversation in the comments, and I believe it was April, a faithful subscriber to the Adrienne Ross Show, whom I appreciate very much. She said to me at one point that sometimes you are not able to control players, not necessarily because you are not a good disciplinarian or that you're not a good coach, but there are moving parts sometimes that we're not aware of. It is, I use this word a lot because it's true. It can be like a machine. So here you are trying to control Alyssa Thomas, trying to control Dejanay Carrington, and maybe there are voices above yours that have your hands tied. You don't touch Alyssa Thomas. You don't touch Dejanay Carrington. You don't touch the machine. Is it possible that that's what's going on? I've never seen, and I asked in my live last night, and nobody could tell me that this was the case, that this is the case. I've seen nothing to indicate that Stephanie White is the kind of coach who rejoices or encourages her team to beat up on other players. I don't believe there's anything out there about her being dirty as a player, as an associate coach, as a head coach. Now, those players, off the hook. But again, sometimes there's a machine in place that ties your hands, whether you're talking about teaching, which I have done, whether you're talking about coaching, which I have done. A lot of times there are things that other people don't see and pressures that come. Could it be that that's why she's saying, I know I've got time left in my contract, but I'm done. I don't want to coach in this kind of atmosphere. Is that possible? And, you know, when you think about the Indiana Fever, if you're watching my unconventional awards, and if you're not, you're missing out because we're having a blast. But you know that the Indiana Fever won the award for the most likable franchise. So I don't see a Stephanie White or whomever comes in to coach the Fever. I don't see them having to deal with people like Dejanay Claw Carrington or Alyssa Mack Truck Thomas. I don't see that. So I had those same concerns. Somebody said in the comments, oh, be careful what you co-sign on, all that. I don't make the decisions, okay? I'm just saying that if she is chosen, she's got a huge background in this. She's spoken well of Caitlin Clark. Maybe she wants out of this. Maybe she's like, no more. I'm not going to put my name on something like this. And maybe the Indiana Fever will task her with this role. And if that's the case, she's a good coach, first of all. But if that's the case, then I'm going to get behind her and I'm going to support her. That's the feeling that I have, is that it's going to be Stephanie White. And for whatever reason, I got a good feeling about it. I understand that she had just recently, a couple of weeks ago, talked about some family problems she's going through. So we were talking about that too. She was just like, this is not my priority right now. My priority is my family. And so I don't know what happened with the family. I don't know what's going on with the family, but obviously she's parting ways with Connecticut. And I don't know. We will see. I don't know, but that's the feeling that I get. I hear names like Lisa Bluter, which is not going to happen. I explained that in my live, and I think that's the wise thing. Lisa Bluter is not coming to Indiana, nor should she. But I've explained that in that live. I've explained it in other lives. Also, people mention Mark Jackson. I love Mark Jackson. He's a man of integrity. He would be good. Don't know the league would bring him in. But wow. But my sense is that it'll be Stephanie White. Could be wrong, but that's what I'm feeling. And that's what something that Martin from Livewire Sports and I talked about, and other people are talking about as well. And so again, I know we want to go, she couldn't control her players, but again, she went out of there, it seems. Maybe she just didn't want to get down with what she was seeing, and she wants to be in a different position where her heart is, where she played, where there's a player like Caitlin Clark, who's a generational player, and she says, I can take this team to the next level. Don't get mad at me. I'm just sharing some thoughts about it. Obviously, the comment section is a place where you can can tell what you think. Do you feel like, okay, I hear what you're saying. Maybe what April said and what Martin said and what others are saying, maybe that's the deal. Maybe she was in over her head, so to speak, with the kind of bully ball and stuff like that. There are some players and people who are just out of control. Maybe she wanted to say, DeJounte, get off of Twitter laughing with your girlfriend about poking somebody's eyes out. That was the season was over then, but maybe she wanted to say cut out on the social media, and management was saying hands off, hands off. I don't know. I just wonder. So do you feel like you could embrace Stephanie White on the Fever team? Do you feel like if you can push past those things that maybe we don't understand and say, yeah, she's a good coach, and if she comes to the Fever, hey, let's roll. How many of you want her? How many of you hoping it is Stephanie White? How many of you say absolutely no way, it's unforgivable what she has done, etc.? The comments, as long as you're respectful, that's a place to chop it up a little bit. And this is the cool thing. We kind of get to sit back and observe it all unfold. And sure, we feel invested in the team, and we got people we want, people we don't want, etc. But here, it's let's just talk about it. Now, I don't see her going to Chicago. In fact, I guess there's somebody who wants to go to Chicago. I wouldn't want to go to Chicago. I don't want to coach that team. I don't want to have to undo damage that Teresa Weatherspoon has done. And frankly, I wouldn't want to deal with Angel Reese. That's just me, especially if I have an alternative and Caitlin Clark. So interesting that on the 27th, Lynn Dunn's job as general manager came to a close. On the 28th, she supposedly stepped into a role as senior advisor. On the 27th, when her job as general manager came to an end, that is also the day it was announced that Christie Sides was parting ways with the Indiana Fever. On the 28th, that's when the new general manager comes in, Amber Cox, and that's also the day we hear that the Connecticut Sun has parted ways with Stephanie White. We'll stay on it, find out what happens next, right? I'll catch you next time, God willing. God bless you abundantly.